Thank you, Scott, and good afternoon, everyone. Um, Really quick on this class. You all know the challenges everyone around America has faced. You've heard me say it multiple times. The challenges for us in particular, being a place that you really have to visit and follow a lot of guidelines to get where we are. And It was a very targeted search for us to put this class together. Starting first and foremost with quarterback. Didn't take one a year ago, knowing that we were turning a quarterback from a Mormon mission, Tanner McKee, and counting on this class. And Ari Patu, very excited about Ari, seeing him throw the ball live over the years. And most people that have seen him throw the ball live, the ball really comes out of his hand. He's a great athlete, as important as anything. High character, natural leadership skills, just such a great fit for us. And we knew this early on. And, we looked around with a lot of guys, but we just kept coming back and saying, this just feels like our guy. And I'm very excited about adding him. Knew that we had a young offensive line class previous years, and really wanted to accent that and sign just a couple of guys here. May not be done on the offensive line side, but we'll see how the rest of the week goes. But Jack Lehrer from Texas, just a big, long, physical guy that fits our build up front, what we're trying to do. Great to see our running game come along this year. So many struggles last year. We're so young. Great to see it start to pick up some steam. We think Jack's a great fit there. And really wanted to also add to our running back room, with running backs and fullbacks. Brendan Barrow has that agility, quickness, and explosive nature. Saw him in limited fashion last year and really got an idea of what this guy could become. Then got to know him, and you can't help it. You get to know him, you fall in love with him and his family. And we saw this year what he's like as the main back. Made a lot of great plays. Big thing we always look at with running backs is being able to break tackles and make yards on your own. And you see Brendan do that. We also, as much as we continue to tout being tight end U, we feel great about reemphasizing being fullback U as well. I don't know if that really counts. I don't know how many other fullback U's there are out there in competition. But adding two in this class, first and foremost, Shield Taylor, all of us reminds us so much of Ryan Hewitt, the athleticism, the versatility from the backfield at the line of scrimmage as an H-back, split out, does so many great things. And then Coco Lukrich. Coco could play fullback. He could play H-back. He could play tight end. Many people recruited him as an offensive lineman. So he's pretty much all of that. And we'll see what he merges into or develops into while he's here. But I think combination of those three guys is a real big jolt to our running back room. Very excited about that. Jason Raines, quick, explosive, athletic, and long receiver from New Jersey, makes a lot of plays. Very excited about what he brings to our team as well. Once again, especially with a young receiving core and a lot of guys coming back. Didn't want to add a whole bunch of guys there as again, a very targeted search for somebody who fits our team and fits Stanford University, and Jason does that for us. On the defensive line, there's no secret. We were really attacking two areas, especially as far as numbers go. On the defense side of the defensive line, we had to bring in guys, not just numbers, but guys that fit. And between Aaron and Anthony and Zach, I think we've got a great group of quick and athletic guys and physical guys. Had to out recruit a couple of guys, obviously, up a couple of teams for these guys, particularly Aaron. A lot of people are after Aaron, very high expectations of him, but it's not about the expectations. It's his athletic ability and his personality. Going to be a great jolt to that defensive line room. Such a great young man, as all these guys are. Have to mention it that, yes, I did play with Zach Bucky's dad here at Stanford. Had nothing to do with the recruiting process. We just liked his film. Once again, quick, high effort, explosive nature. And Anthony Franklin, just so versatile. rushing inside, rushing outside, and really being another guy that plays with that proper temperament. As you've seen, I think this was the best defensive line year we've had in a while. And these guys come in and add to that mix. So I'm very excited about that. And the other place that we really wanted to attack with volume, but also with versatility, was the defensive back group. And with Ellis and Lightbird and Wyrick and Slocum, we've got a group of guys that are a combination of length, speed, athleticism, safety in this new world of football is vital because they have to be able to cover in space. They have to be able to cover running backs and tight ends out the backfield. They have to be able to cover deep and short. They have to be able to blitz. So, finding a group of guys like this, a lot of credit to Coach Keena, Coach Lance Anderson, our entire staff are really finding those guys that fit our defense and this new era of football. The combination of spread offenses that run and spread offenses that pass, because this league has both. So really excited about that group. And then had to add punter and kicker this year, and with Colin Wilson coming in and Emmett Kenny, two guys that we feel great about being able to come in, learn early on, and before long really compete to get on the field is great. Pete Alomar just has a great eye for talent and the ability to develop guys. So I know those guys will continue to grow under his tutelage. A whole host of other guys in this class, other non-scholarship guys that we think very highly of. And we've got a great history here of bringing these guys in and developing talent. And those guys that get the chance to get on the field and help us work towards victory. Those guys were in scholarships even as recently as this year. So excited about this group. Linebacker group right now is minimal, but we'll see how the rest of the week goes. Who knows how the next 4 or 5 days will change things, but excited about this group and ready to take questions.
First question will go to Rusty Simmons. Go ahead, Rusty.
Coach, if I'm reading it right, this is a group of 20. Is that about what you expected? And as you started to talk about there, what else do you expect before February 3rd?
I didn't really come into this with a specific number. You all know what the NCAA rulings have been in the last few months as far as being able to go over the 85 number of scholarships. So really, we were just looking for guys that fit us. It's really almost impossible to plan which guys are going to go pro, which guys are going to just graduate and move on, which guys are going to grad transfer, not just this year, but over the next 2 years. That really affects the 2020 class, et cetera. So feeling really good about where we are and making sure this class was never going to be huge anyway. But I think it's got a good size now, and I think we can handle whatever ebb and flow happens over the next couple of months. But I feel good about the number, especially when we're looking for volume on the defensive line, volume at the defensive back position in particular, our quarterback. So I feel good about our numbers.
This probably speaks to the challenges that you talked about, but I think you guys covered 11 states plus Ontario. Can you put that into our readers' perspective on what you guys have had to do to recruit this season?
Well, a lot of credit to Mike Eubanks and his staff and recruiting office, our coaches. We've always been a national recruiter and will always be a national recruiter. But the challenge of being a national recruiter without leaving your office is a new challenge. So a lot of work was put into our virtual visits, a lot of communication with a lot of different people. And when you have the academic standards that we have, and then the amount of communication you have to have with these people and their families and the people at their schools, our process can look like it's cumbersome, but also this process is a really great way to get to know people. So even though we haven't been able to see people in person, that constant communication and dialogue with so many different people we've got a really good picture of these young men. Maybe not the same way that we've had in the past, but in a different way to a certain degree. Getting to know people over the phone, you can't really fake it. All you can do is talk and express yourself. And I think we've gotten to know these guys really well, and we've gotten to know their families very well. When there's no physical part of it and you're just communicating, they get to ask maybe questions that maybe they wouldn't ask if we were just walking around campus. So I think we've answered a lot of questions, and I think all of this group feels really, really good. Even though some of them weren't able to really walk around campus and spend time with us, they feel good about getting to know us. They feel good about getting to know what Stanford has to offer, both on and off the field. And I think we're in a good place right now.
And lastly, if I can ask a third question, I was going to ask about Aaron. I know that so many teams were after him, and just wondering what you think of his abilities and his prospects when he gets into your program.
Yeah, Aaron was one of the few. He made that first junior day, thankfully, and kind of the world shut down right after that. And I think that sat in the back of his brain that he was actually able to walk around and talk to guys and get to know guys on our team. As you all know, I mean, that's as strong of a pull as we have is our locker room. And for him to get to know Thomas Booker and some of these other guys and sit there and listen to them talk to each other and spend some time with those guys on campus, that was big for him. He's got big goals and aspirations and all those things that young people have coming in. But I love his energy and love his personality, as well as the athletic ability. So I think the bar that he sets for himself is very high. I think Coach Reynolds does a great job of getting these guys to understand how to fit in our scheme, and at the same time where that freedom in our scheme does lie. And I think he's going to be a quick study.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Jacob Rayburn. Go ahead, Jacob.
Hey, Coach, congratulations.
Thank you.
Talking about the difficulty with evaluation, not just for this cycle, but unfortunately now it's affecting the next class of guys as well. One individual in particular I want your thoughts on with that is Ari. I mean, he was already in a unique situation with not having a full season as a starter under his belt, having split reps his junior season, and then his senior season's postponed. But you guys seem to have felt confident with the amount of information you already had on Ari. Could you talk us through a little bit on that process of feeling confident to choose someone in that situation?
Yeah, and I wouldn't put Ari in the situation with some of these other recruits, but because we saw Ari live, we saw him. He came to camp. Coach Pritchard saw him throw. I saw him throw. That's one of those things that, honestly, the development that happens over a 2-year period is a lot physical. With a quarterback, a lot of times you can see it as a freshman. If that ball comes out of his hand the right way, then you see what the rest of his body does. But Ari just throws such a great ball. Live personality and energy, athleticism. I think his coaching staff in high school did a great job because they had a starter before him, and they found ways to get Ari on the field. So that balance. But when we did see him play, he made a difference with his arm, difference with his legs. So that was a lot of fun to see. We'll still the California high school season's not completely over. It's not looking great right now. Most of them are still kind of crossing their fingers, but we knew enough by seeing them. You get the videos from those. Who knows how much those things really matter? Going to different camps and performing, etc. But bottom line is, learn from the phrase from John Gruden. People use the same phrase, but for quarterbacks, you want to see that repeatable motion, right? A smooth, quick, repeatable motion as the ball gets out fast. The very same release point every single time. That doesn't change, and that was very exciting to us. And for a guy that's not 230 pounds, that ball travels and it comes out fast. So that was exciting for us.
And in a recruiting cycle that obviously was challenging for everybody, but there were some pretty special challenges that you and I have talked about for Stanford, that resulted in a number of, I think I would have to imagine, kind of frustrating situations. I can't really think of maybe more of a prominent example is there was an unusual number of guys who were admitted to the university but chose to commit elsewhere. Wondering your reaction if that was just kind of a frustrating thing to see, that something that usually was a pretty lock for you guys, that someone would go through that process would then commit elsewhere.
I don't really get frustrated. This day is about the guys that do come. So everybody in America has guys that they recruit that don't come. So I'm going to focus on the guys that are here and be excited about those guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Next, we'll go to Harold Gutman. Go ahead, Harold.
I was wondering just if you had kind of one or two favorite stories from this recruiting cycle, especially since it was so different and everything virtually, not entering people's homes or anything like that.
That's a good question. Probably not ready to share some of the specific stories, but most of them have to do with like trying to get everybody on the Zoom at the same time. And it's different than, hey, coach, we're coming to visit. Okay, great. We're all going to be there. The coaches are going to be there. And it's like, okay, well, we have practice at this time. Then we have meetings at this time. Oh, you get out of class at this time, but mom and dad don't get out of work until this time. So the constant organization of trying to make sure that we can get a block of time for so many people in so many different areas, because we weren't in the office. So, right. So coaches are at home, coaches are here, families there. We had multiple meetings with these recruits where none of them were home. So neither the recruit nor mom or dad were home, and they're all different places, and all the coaches are in different places. So that took a lot of arranging, which, once again, hopefully we don't have to worry about this after this year. But it kept in that mentality of whatever we have to do to find our Stanford men, whatever we have to do. And these guys, and we put more on recruits than anybody in America. And for these guys to push and strive and try to find a way, because anywhere along the way, a lot of other places are easier, but no place is more special. And these young men understand that.
One other question from me. I know you mentioned Ari already, but Mitch too, I think, didn't get to play football, at least in the fall. Were there any challenges with having to evaluate people without that, senior season from California? Was it easier to pick someone from another area of the country that did have that tape?
Not necessarily. This recruiting world has sped up so much, really in the last 10 years, but especially the last 5. And for this class, that's why next class is a little bit more difficult. For this class, we had most of these guys evaluated already, because we evaluate their junior years. If you don't evaluate them by junior, it's almost too late. So we had a good portion of these guys already evaluated, and it would have helped to see more senior film on some of these guys. But we trust what we saw before. We trust what their coaches say. We trust the workout film that we saw, the random stuff that came in. We trust the academic work that these guys put in. So that was the big thing for us, is we did have junior film on almost all of these guys that we knew and trust and felt great about. Next year's class is going to be interesting without that junior film, and who knows if we're going to be able to get out in spring to see people live also. So it's still a strange world that hopefully is getting better in a lot of ways. But for this class, we felt great about a lot of the junior film that we saw.
Next, let's go to RJ Badia. Go ahead, RJ.
Coach, I was wondering if you could dig in a little bit more on Brendan Barrow. He seems like a guy who runs well beyond his measurables in terms of size, and just his film for a guy to pop up on the radar maybe as late as he did. Just talk about the process of when he really grabbed your attention, and just the process of getting him to where he is now.
Yeah, the recruits, just speak for me. Recruits come to me in different ways from different people, and a lot of guys on our staff. And every once in a while, someone on our staff just says, "Coach, I think you're going to love this guy," and that's what Coach Gould said to me. And once again, very similar to Ari, split time with us with a senior before, and the glimpses that we saw, we kept saying, "Wow, when this kid gets a chance to play the full game and not split time, it might be exciting," because you saw a guy once again, whatever his measurables may or may not look like, he broke tackles. He ran physical between the tackles. He showed great savvy, caught the ball in the backfield, made a lot of long explosive plays with a short period of time playing. So we felt really good about what he was able to do. And we looked at a bunch of guys in this class, and there were some other higher ranked guys that we kept saying, "No, Brendan's better." Just purely looking at the football that was available for us to look at. He was one of those guys that did get a chance to play this year, and was exciting. And in this new world where not many people are going to high school games. I mean, it seems like most of them are streamed, so we were able to see, especially his early games, and we're very, very impressed.
And then I was curious about the DBs. I mean, I know as individuals, they all have to carry their own weight, but I'm curious, when you're going to take a group, do you project about how guys are going to play with one another and the extent to which they are compatible in a group of 2 or 3 or 4 as a secondary unit?
I think more important for us is that they fit our room, that they fit our group of guys. High character, high competitive, and at the same time, that personality, because the offensive line may be the only other group that needs to communicate this well and this frequently for us to be successful. So these guys got to be able to talk to each other, trust each other. They all need leadership. They got to make these loud and aggressive and definite calls. So you're looking for personality traits that these guys are bright, that they're smart, but that they're communicative. And that usually takes a little while, especially during the recruiting process. We're still getting to know each other, and they're guarded, and we're probing. And then once you get to know these guys and they get to know each other, that's what starts to come out. So I feel great about this group. I feel great about not just them as individuals or just as a group. I feel good about them coming into our DB room with the Coach Akina and feeling that this group really be one unit.
And then just my last individual guy I got to ask is Jason Amsler, who profiles about as high as a preferred walk-on can profile, really. I mean, from the film and everything. Just talk about finding him and rolling the dice on guys who you think maybe have a little more upside, especially at offensive line.
Yeah, we talked about him so many times, and very similar to talking about Brendan Barrow. Coach Carberry kept coming back to him and saying, "Coach, I think this guy's got something. I think he's got a chance." And his desire to be at Stanford, I think, was great. And our history of taking preferred walk-ons and giving them opportunities to compete and earn scholarships. I don't know if there's another program that does it as well or as frequently as we do. Our conversation when he told me he was coming, he said it flat out. He's like, "Coach, just so you know, this is on my to-do list to earn a scholarship." And I said, nothing would make me happier. He's got length, he's got athleticism. He plays with a nasty demeanor. So I don't doubt it. I don't put it past him. So I'm excited to get him here. And as you talk to the guys on our team, we don't treat preferred walk-ons any different than anybody, and then the guys that are scholarship guys. And so these guys will come in, get everything that our scholarship guys, every opportunity that our scholarship guys get, and they come in and compete. So I'm excited to see him get here.
And just my very last thing, this class as high schoolers have missed out on so much. And I'm just wondering, what is the plan for Big Visit or Big Virtual Visit, or, something that I know you guys hold up as a pretty meaningful part of this experience for them?
Yeah, it won't be the same. It's still coming together to a certain degree. A lot of these guys know each other now. They communicate on social media. They get to know each other. So we won't be really necessarily introducing them all to each other necessarily, but we'll try to do something. And more importantly, when they get to Stanford, we'll try to do something with their families. Hopefully handshakes and hugs will be legal by the time these guys walk on campus with their families, because that'll be big. That'll be big when they can all come together in June, cross our fingers, hopefully, and get a chance to be around each other, around our team, around our staff. That's going to be big because we are going to miss out on something special. Our big visit, and ask every single one of our guys. It's the highlight of their recruiting, not just the end of their recruitment, but that transition from being a recruit to being on the team, and that time that they get a chance to spend together. It's a great bonding time. So we're working through what we can do and how special we can make it. But nothing's going to be like the time they can walk on campus and really spend time with each other.
Thank you.
Have time for two last hands. Let's start with Jacob and then finish with Rusty. Go ahead, Jacob.
Hey, Coach. With this class close to being wrapped up, what can you share about the priorities your staff's identified for 2022?
You're just going to keep jumping the gun, aren't you?
Well, the cycle's never end, Coach.
Yeah, I know. We've got a really good jump start on 22, as much as you can without a good chunk of these guys playing. But yeah, we have our list of priorities, which I'll push to a later date. But the 22 class, I think, is going to be as challenging as this class, just because we're missing so much junior film. Spring evaluations are going to be big if we can get out, and if we can't get out, still being able to have, whether some of these spring jamborees are streamed, or whatever access to film we could have, because bottom line though is, yes, we need transcripts, but at the same time we need film. We need to verify, and we need to see athletic ability and physical nature, etc. So that it puts a lot on the spring, whatever we can get done in the spring, whatever the NCAA rules allow us to do.
And my last thing is, I'm pretty confident that almost every recruit I've talked to about your guys' virtual visits has been really impressed by how informative they are, especially the most, I would say the additions of the virtual visit once you guys got everything put together after the first couple of months. We've talked about how that tool can kind of carry over into the non-COVID world that can possibly get here soon enough. What are maybe your thoughts now that this class is wrapping up about what you guys had to do to be effective in this class that can be part of being effective in the future?
Yeah, a lot of credit to Mike Eubanks, Director of Recruiting, Casey Hahe, and his video skills, along with a host of other people, to really put together all that we gave. I mean, and there's sometimes I come out of that thing saying, wow, we just gave them so much. I hope they can digest it. But the combination of academics and then football, but those were two just tiny pieces. I mean, our guys, our current players, and their recruiting process, their daily life, the academic people, our trainers, and the tours, and then the NFL guys and alumni, and all those things, trying to put all those things together to give them an idea. So my hope is that now we have so many things in the can, and so many things that we'll continue to add, but these will be more enticements. It'll be great when these are enticements to get people to come visit, as opposed to taking the place of a visit. There's still nothing like walking on campus. There's still nothing like being on our campus with our student athletes and the professors and our staff. That's still the biggest thing that we've got going for us, that gets these guys to really understand how important it is to take those AP classes, and et cetera. So hopefully now, with all these things that we have and we'll continue to add to and manipulate, that these are now, hey, this is why you want to come to Stanford. Here's a glimpse, right? So now these are glimpses and enticements, as opposed to trying to replace walking on campus.
Thank you very much, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, let's finish up with Rusty Simmons. Go ahead, Rusty.
Coach, I was going to ask about the balance of the class. If I'm reading it right, it's 9 offense, 9 defense, 2 specialists. Is that kind of how you looked at it going into it, or do those things kind of develop as the cycle goes on?
Yeah, that kind of develops. We tried to be as targeted as possible, as I said earlier. The idea from the very beginning that this wasn't going to be a huge class, and it probably grew a little bit, maybe more than we thought it was going to, even though it may look like a small class, knowing that we may or may not have a bunch of guys leave. But it's not about the number of guys that leave. It's also the number of guys that are in the last 2 classes. We have a lot of guys in the last 2 classes that we feel great about, and that we wanted to make sure that we broached numbers in a certain few positions, but then other guys are very targeted search for individuals, like a Jason Raines, where we say we don't need to take 3 receivers. Let's find the one guy that fits us the best. So that's kind of how the numbers round out. I didn't have a specific number I was trying to reach, or a balance between offense and defense. It's that combination of really attacking a couple position groups, but then also finding those individuals that fit specific roles.
And then I was going to ask about Shield Taylor. I know you mentioned him earlier, but what do you see for him? I think there's so many possibilities, but what do you see?
Well, hopefully he follows the trajectory that we typically have, which is to come in and learn the basics. Come in and we'll find out what he's comfortable with and try to let him do that early on. And then by the time he leaves Stanford, this is a guy that's going to carry the ball. This guy is going to catch the ball. He's going to be a lead blocker. He's going to be a versatile guy that can line up at different places. That he's going to play on special teams. This is just one of those guys that has so many possibilities what he can do athletically, that just can't help but be excited. And our building, for us to compare somebody to Ryan Hewitt, that's high praise, right? That's high praise. Ryan was just one of those guys. Hey, coach, whatever you need, put me wherever you want. And I believe that's what Shield will be for us, a guy that can line up in a lot of different places and do a lot of different things.
And lastly, if I can I ask you to wrap up the 2020 recruiting cycle for this 21 class? I mean, is it? I can only imagine what you've been through and how this has been. Can you wrap it up for us at all?
Well, for all of you West Coast people, this recruiting cycle has kind of been like Lombard Street, and a lot of twists and turns. Every time you want to put your foot on the gas, you got to kind of put your foot back on the brake, because another tight turn is coming. And then you get to the end of it and you say that was a little bit arduous, but at the same time, it was kind of cool. And then also, I don't know how many times you want to go down Lombard Street. Once you do it once, you don't need to do it 5 or 6 times. So hopefully this is the one time that we have to go down a street like that. But you look back and say, wow, we made it through it. We did a good job. I like the result. Got some great pictures. Now let's go see something else in San Francisco. So it was a good experience. It was a great challenge. I think for us, it was a great challenge for these student athletes. And hopefully with the way that our nation is hopefully going to start trending in the next few months with the virus, that we never have to go through anything like this again.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining. We'll send out audio and video here shortly. Have a good rest of the day.
Thanks everyone.